This is the story of Ruperto, Oliver, and Elsie, and how their lives were affected by industrial animal agriculture. First, let's meet Oliver. This is Oliver. He was born onto a confined animal feeding operation, or CAFO for short. As these images taken from industry websites show, the dimensions of the crate that Oliver was gestated in weren't large enough for his mother to turn around. But pigs are complex individuals that need more than metal grating and steel bars to survive.
In university studies, pigs learn video games.
In university studies, pigs learn video games with joysticks as fast as chimps, faster than a 3-year-old child, and excelled over both. The architecture of these megafarms just isn't appropriate for mammals that desire companionship, fresh air, grass, and sunlight. These farms look more like factories, and it is no coincidence. As far back as the 1978 edition of National Hog Farmer instructed that, quote, the breeding sow should be thought of and treated as a valuable piece of machinery whose function is to pump out baby pigs like a sausage machine. The USDA defines a confined animal feeding operation as a place that holds 2,500 or more pigs. Having genetically similar animals in filthy, overcrowded, and stressful conditions that weaken their immune systems makes CAFOs incubators for disease. And although 70% of all medically important antibiotics produced each year are fed to farmed animals, CAFOs present real threats to human health, such as E. coli, swine flu, bird flu, mad cow, and salmonella, among others. The architecture of these CAFOs isn't just awful for pigs like Oliver. It's horrible for the humans that work here as well. Meet Ruperto. Ruperto Vasquez Carrera worked at a CAFO called Sunrise Organic Dairy. That morning, a snowmelt had caused flooding around the farm that made the line between road and manure pit hard to see. So much so that Ruperto called his brother, who also worked at the farm, to warn him of the conditions. By the time the sun was up, Ruperto was dead. He had mistakenly driven his feed truck into the manure pond, full to the brim with animal feces and urine. He managed to escape his truck and swim for 70 yards, but was unable to make it to safety. Ruperto did not deserve to die this way, and neither does anyone else. Tragedy is often multiplied when family, friends, and coworkers try to help someone overcome in a manure pit. In 2007, 4 family members and a hired farmhand each drowned one after the other after being overcome by fumes trying to save one another. And in 2015, there were 2 separate events where fathers and sons drowned while trying to save each other. So what makes these manure lagoons so fatally toxic? Primarily composed of feces and urine, manure lagoons at CAFOs also contain microbial pathogens, pharmaceuticals, ammonium, nitrogen, phosphorus, hormones, pesticides, animal carcasses, and heavy metals. These hideous pieces of architecture also release hydrogen sulfide, methane, ammonia, and carbon dioxide into the environment. So where does all this waste come from, and where does it all go?
The waste falls through the floors. It's flushed out into an open pit, like a cesspool. It's easy for a big hog operation to have as much waste as a medium-sized city. Of course, the pit will fill up, so it has to be emptied, and they're emptied by spraying the liquid waste.
Yes, you heard that right.
If you're familiar with a garden sprayer, they're gigantic versions of that. So they're making droplets, fine mists out of this liquid waste, and that can drift downwind into be called environmental racism or environmental injustice, that people of color, low-income people, bear the brunt of these practices.
This is where they spray animal waste on us. This is about 8 feet from my mother's house.
What is it like when the mist is?
It's like, you think it's raining?
Really?
You think it's raining. We don't open the doors up.
This is Elsie. She lives on a piece of land her family has owned since the 1880s. She remembers clearly when the new CAFO across the street began spraying. While relaxing on the porch with friends, all of a sudden it started stinking like nothing you've experienced. She says after that, it was all day, every day, and that it began to feel like living in a prison. I think we can all agree that we can't keep dumping shit on disproportionately Black and Latina communities for cheap bacon. But CAFOs only exist to meet consumer demand. So what did Elsie Herrings do to fight back? She chose to boycott this dirty, cruel, and environmentally devastating industry. And with the availability of delicious, eco-friendly, plant-based alternatives, it's easier than ever to make your diet animal-free.